Discover the incredible moment a paralyzed CEO's heart was reawakened by a mechanic after 5 years. Ethan Sullivan sat in his wheelchair, the cold metal frame biting into his skin, while memories of his former life crashed over him like waves against a rocky shore. The Midwestern town he once dominated buzzed with energy just beyond his apartment window. The familiar storefronts, with their glowing signs and welcoming doors, whispered remnants of his past glory. Once, he had been a titan, revered for his cunning business strategies and community projects. Now, he felt invisible, a shadow of the man he had been, haunted by regret and the loss of connections, especially with his daughter, Lily. The bitterness between them felt like a thick wall, built from years of disappointment and unkept promises. It was a bleak morning, nostalgia weighing heavily on his heart, when his faded blue sedan let out a dreadful sputter and came to a stop outside a dilapidated auto shop. Frustration bubbled within him. With no choice, he wheeled himself inside, greeted by the smell of motor oil and the sound of tools clanging. He was met by Jake, a humble mechanic with laugh lines etched into his weathered face, a war veteran with an understanding gaze. "Car trouble?" Jake couldn't help but ask, extending a hand and helping Ethan navigate the shop, a simple act that sent a ripple of warmth through Ethan's chest. Soon, a conversation began, one that would tremble the foundations of Ethan's sadness. Jake listened intently as Ethan shared fragments of his past: the CEO, the family man, the doting father before the accident changed everything. "Accidents happen, man. But they don't have to define us," Jake said, his voice steady like the ground beneath Ethan's wheels. They exchanged stories, each one peeling back layers of both their lives. Jake talked about the days when he returned from war, struggling to reintegrate into a world that felt different, a sentiment that rang true for Ethan. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let us continue. Ethan felt a flicker of hope, a connection forged from vulnerability. Jake challenged him, gently prodding about his daughter. "You can't change the past, but maybe you can try to fix the future. Reach out to her." It sounded simple, yet the thought of facing Lily, the pain in her eyes, the bitterness in her voice terrified him. What if she still hated him? As they wrapped up their conversation, Ethan's heart raced with sudden urgency. The day of the community event drew near. That was his chance. He needed to reach out to his daughter, not just for himself but for the town that had once cheered him on. As he wheeled away, promise flooding his mind, an unexpected notification pinged on his phone. It was from Lily. A surge of excitement mingled with fear gripped his heart. What did she want to say? Could this be the moment that changed everything? Ethan stared at his phone, the screen lighting up with Lily's name. His heart thundered in his chest, each beat screaming for courage. He hesitated, fingers hovering over the device as memories of their last argument flooded his mind, words left unsaid and sharp moments of pain. Gulping, he took a deep breath and tapped on the message. "Hey, Dad. It's been a while. I wanted to talk." His fingers trembled. 5 years had passed since their last real conversation, and now here she was, extending an olive branch. He could feel the weight of it, light yet heavy with both hope and doubt. He quickly typed back, "It like that. When can we meet?" A few moments felt like hours before her response chimed back. "How about the community event this weekend at the park? I'll be there." The thought of facing Lily amid the decorations, families laughing, children playing sent a wave of anxiety crashing over him. But this was his chance. It was not just about the event, but his opportunity to bridge the gap created by years of silence. With urgency coursing through him, Ethan made his way home, determination settling into his heart. The days leading to the event were a whirlwind. Ethan busied himself preparing for the community gathering. With Jake's encouragement, he found new purpose. He worked feverishly on the speech he wanted to deliver, not just about revitalizing the town, but about reconnecting with his daughter. Each word he wrote was laced with hope, an intention to bring the warmth back into their relationship. On the day of the event, Ethan arrived early, the air around him bursting with chatter and laughter. Kids chased each other, while families set up picnic blankets and food stalls. He could almost taste nostalgia in the air, the way it felt when everything was normal. But this time, he wasn't the notable CEO behind the scenes. He was the man in a wheelchair, hoping to reclaim his place in the world and maybe earn back a piece of his daughter's heart. Spotting Lily across the park felt like a punch in the gut. She looked so much like her mother, bright hair, sparkling eyes, yet there was a distance in her expression that cut through him like ice. Ethan took a deep breath, his pulse quickening as she approached. This was the moment he'd been waiting for, yet the fear of rejection weighed heavily on him. "Dad," Lily said softly, her voice wavering. Ethan felt every layer of pain and distance in that word, a word that once held so much warmth, now felt cold and distant. Before he could respond, he was interrupted by a sudden cheer from the crowd, signaling the start of the event. Ethan turned towards the noise, seeing people gather around for the opening speech. The moment felt serendipitous. Anxiety tightened around his chest, but something in him felt emboldened by the magic of the occasion. "Okay, just breathe," he muttered to himself, steeling his resolve. Under the rising excitement of the crowd, Ethan glanced back at Lily. She was watching him, uncertainty etched on her features. For a fleeting moment, he saw a flicker of hope in her eyes. Gathering his courage, he whispered, "This is it." Ethan wheeled himself towards the podium, heart racing with anticipation. As he gripped the edges, he believed, truly believed, that he had a chance to mend the pieces of their broken relationship. When he looked out into the sea of familiar faces, he saw not just his daughter's uncertainty, but a community waiting for him to reclaim his voice. Would he be able to convey everything he felt, both for the town and for the daughter standing there, so close yet so far? With uncertainty hanging in the air, he took a deep breath, ready to speak. But what if the words he had spent days crafting escaped him? The moment Bradley took the first step towards the podium to reclaim the connection he had lost, would it be enough to heal the wounds that had lingered for too long? Or would misunderstandings cast a shadow over the hope he'd built? Ethan's fingers trembled as he gripped the podium. The hum of the crowd became a distant roar, pulsing in his ears. He looked down at his wheelchair, the very vessel that had become a part of him, a reminder of his struggles. The warmth of the sun bathed his face, but he felt cold inside, fighting against the tide of emotions swirling around him. "Hi everyone," he managed to say, his voice barely above a whisper at first. The crowd hushed, their eyes fixed on him, full of curious anticipation. Ethan tried to focus, pushing aside the memory of failing. Instead, he drew strength from the vibrant atmosphere around him. Children were laughing, friends were holding hands, and the smell of freshly baked goods wafted through the air. He cleared his throat, willing his voice to rise and fill the open space. I'm Ethan, and I haven't been around much. Life took a few unexpected turns for me. But I'm here today because I want to reconnect, not just with this community but, most importantly, with my daughter." He glanced at Lily. Her face was a mix of apprehension and something softer, perhaps hope. Just that flicker made him want to fight for this moment, to make it count. The words spilled out of him, a gentle cascade washing over them both. "5 years ago, I lost not only my mobility but also a part of myself, my connection to the people I love. I thought that losing my job meant losing my worth. And in my struggle, I lost touch with Lily." The confession hung in the air, raw and vulnerable. He could see her heart shifting, the walls tightening and loosening all at once. Ethan was surprised at how liberating it felt to speak his truth. He pressed on, each word strengthening his resolve. "I've wasted so much time. Years filled with regret and silence. But today, I want to change that. I want to build bridges, not just in this town but with my family, with you, Lily." He turned to her fully now, searching for understanding in her eyes. The crowd was still, weighty with compassion. She looked at him as if processing a riddle, the pieces of their past intertwining with the hopes for a better future. Ethan felt a knot tightening in his throat. "I can't rewind time, but I can still be here for you," he continued, emotion thickening his voice. "I want to hear your thoughts, your feelings, and I promise to listen this time." A murmur of approval rippled through the audience. People were leaning forward, hanging on to every word. But with all the support enveloping him, it was Lily's reaction that mattered most. A single tear trickled down her cheek as she nodded. The weight of years devoid of connection began to lift. Ethan couldn't help but feel a spark was at hope. "Dad," she started, but the sound of applause interrupted her. Everyone in the crowd had risen to their feet. Ethan didn't need their applause, he needed her words. "Thank you," he managed with a wavering smile, his heart swelling with gratitude. "Thank you all for your support." He looked back at Lily, who was still watching him intently. The crowd's clapping filled the silence, but it offered him no answers to the questions swirling in his mind. What would she say? Would she be willing to meet him halfway? As the energy in the park shifted, Ethan felt a sense of clarity. Maybe this would be the day they began to heal. But as he rolled away from the podium, a knot of anxiety returned. Could he truly mend what was broken? Ethan turned to see Lily walking towards the refreshments, her eyes a mix of contemplation and relief. The unfolding moment felt like destiny, a prelude. Would she let the past go, or would uncertainty keep them apart? The crowd buzzed around him, a world pulsing with life, but all he could think of was Lily and the connection yet to be rekindled. If this event marked the beginning of reconciliation, what other challenges awaited them on this road to rediscovery? Ethan watched as Lily slowly approached the refreshment table, her body language tight yet hopeful. He could see her weighing his words, deep in thought. The laughter around them felt like a distant echo, the moment stretching into something significant. Every breath he took felt heavy with anticipation. He rolled closer to her, unsure of how to bridge the gap that had stretched between them for years. His heart raced, and each sound, the crunch of chips, the clinking of glasses, became a reminder that life moved on, but for him, it felt as if time had stopped right there in the park. "Hey, Lil," he said, his voice faltering. He clenched his hands on the wheels of his chair, hoping she would look at him. She finally glanced up, her eyes bright but cautious. "I didn't expect you to come back today," she admitted, her voice soft but steady. "I didn't either," Ethan replied, the truth of it hanging in the air between them. He wanted to reach out to her, to close the distance and melt away the years of silence. "But I felt I had to. For you." Lily bit her lip as if deciding whether to let him in. "What did it feel like up there?" she asked, her gaze piercing through the veil of uncertainty that filled the space. Ethan took a breath, reminded of the overwhelming support he had felt. "It felt like a weight lifting, honestly. I was terrified, but sharing my story made me feel alive again. Like I had a purpose," he confessed. "I want to be part of your life again. I know I've messed it up, but I want to change that." The honesty in his words reflected the turmoil within him, and for a second, he saw a flicker of understanding cross her features. She glanced around, then refocused on him, the fear in her eyes giving way to something deeper, a possibility. "Do you really mean it? You want to try?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "More than anything," he replied, desperation creeping into his tone. "But I know it's not easy. Trust takes time. And I understand if you're not ready." Her gaze softened, and as he watched her, he saw a young woman wrestling with her past and the weight of their shared history. A small smile broke through the storm in her eyes. "I've missed you, Dad." The air shimmered with the warmth of her admission. Ethan could feel a tightness knotting in his chest loosening just a bit. "I've missed you too, Lily. So much." As they stood there, words swirling around them, an unexpected laughter erupted nearby, snapping them from their moment. A couple of kids raced past with ice cream, and for a split second, the park felt alive again. "Remember when you took me to get ice cream that summer? You had that huge cone, and I just wanted to steal a lick." Lily asked, her expression shifting from uncertainty to nostalgia, and Ethan's heart soared. "Of course, I do." He laughed, picturing their carefree days. His eyes lit with joy. "You could never keep your hands to yourself. You got ice cream all over my shirt. I can't believe you still remember that." She giggled, and the warmth between them began to shift. Ethan felt that glimmer of hope igniting within. They were walking into uncharted territory together, but this was a start. Could they recapture those moments? "Maybe we can make new memories," Ethan suggested, his voice soft but strong. "I'd like that," she replied, her smile beaming. Something in Lily shifted, admitting her desire to reconnect, but as the laughter around them continued, he realized they had a long way to go. Could the bond they were rebuilding withstand the challenges ahead? As they shared a tentative smile, the question lingered: what would it take to heal deep wounds? Ethan could feel the shift beneath their feet, paving the way for a new journey, but the path was uncertain. What would unfold next? Would they find the strength to mend the past, or would it push them back into silence once more? Ethan's heart danced as Lily's laughter echoed around them. It was light, free from the burdens they had carried for too long. For the first time in years, he felt a connection sparking to life, like the flicker of a candle in a dark room. But the shadows of the past loomed, ever present and daunting. "Do you remember the park carnival?" Lily asked, her eyes bright with the memory. "You lifted me so high on that swing, and I thought I could touch the clouds." "Of course. You screamed like a little bird," Ethan chuckled, recalling her joy. He could almost see her wiggling with excitement, her tiny fingers gripping the chains. "You were so brave." "Yeah, until you let go," she teased, her voice light, but there was a pause as if assessing how far to venture into memories. Ethan held her gaze, his heart heavy with a mixture of longing and regret. "I wish I could take you back there." All those moments. His voice trailed off as reality crept in. "I want to build new memories, Lily. Ones we deserve." She tilted her head, her eyes searching his, as if looking for reassurance. "I want that too, but it's harder than it sounds." Her smile faded slightly, a shadow crossing her face. "I get it," he said gently. "We can take it one step at a time. I don't want to force this. I just want a chance." Again. Just then, a loud burst of laughter sliced through the air, breaking the moment. A group of children dashed past them, chasing after a rogue soccer ball, their carefree energy a stark contrast to the weight of their conversation. Ethan's thoughts began racing. "Hey, do you want to help me with something?" he asked, eager to lighten the mood. "Like what?" Lily replied, now genuinely curious. "Remember how we used to build those crazy sand castles?" he said, an idea blossoming in his mind. "We could do something like that. It wouldn't be sand, but maybe we could create something here. A little project together." Lily's brow furrowed for a moment, then her eyes sparkled. "I'm in. What do you have in mind?" "We can make a time capsule," he suggested, his excitement building. "We can each write a letter about our hopes for the future, add little keepsakes, and bury it here. Something to dig up later." "That sounds amazing," she said, her enthusiasm palpable. The shadows momentarily lifted as she clapped her hands together. Ethan felt a rush of warmth. "We can plan a reunion for when we unearth it. A reason to see each other again." "Yes. I like that a lot." Lily leaned in, her smile enormous. Each idea weaved a new thread in the fabric of their connection. But just as the joy enveloped them, doubt crept back in. "What if we mess it all up again?" she whispered, her voice quaking with vulnerability. Ethan reached for her hand, a simple but profound act. "We'll make mistakes, that's a given. But as long as we're honest and we keep trying, we can navigate through this mess together, he promised. Okay. She nodded, the conversation consolidating something between them. As they began discussing the things they could add to their capsule, old tickets, photos, funny notes, the gravity of the world around them diminished. Laughter bubbled back to life, chasing away the lingering tension. In that moment, beneath the sun, with promises and projects mixed with the clutter of life, Ethan realized that the healing process had begun. But deep down, a nagging question remained: would it be steady enough to survive the storms that came with their history? Just as they were lost in their world, a sudden commotion erupted nearby. A shouting voice, more urgent than joyful, sparked worry across Ethan's face. What had happened now? What would this new development mean for their fragile beginning? Ethan turned sharply, the sound of chaos shattering the delicate moment they had crafted. A crowd was gathering, their faces twisted in concern. The laughter had died, replaced by frightened murmurs. He felt a surge of protective instinct, pulling him up from the bench. What is going on? Lily asked, her voice shaky. I don't know, he said, scanning the area. Stay close. As they moved toward the cluster of people, Ethan's heart raced. What if it was something serious? The atmosphere felt heavy, like the calm before a thunderstorm. He tightened his grip on Lily's hand, anchoring them both amidst the uncertainty. They reached the edge of the crowd and peered inside. A little boy was lying on the ground, tears streaking his dirt-smudged face, clutching his leg as adults crouched beside him, murmuring words of comfort. Ethan recognized the boy. He was one of the children who had been playing soccer just moments before. Lily gasped. Is he hurt? Looks like it, Ethan replied, feeling the weight of helplessness settle on his chest. He remembered that feeling all too well, the uncertainty and fear when something was out of control. Suddenly, a man broke in through the throng. His face was pale, and he hurried over to the boy. Benny. Are you okay? It was the boy's father, and his voice cracked with worry. Dad, Benny whimpered, wincing in pain. Ethan felt a pit in his stomach. He could see the panic on the father's face, a feeling he understood well. The father knelt down, cradling Benny's head against his chest. Someone call 911. Yelled a woman from the crowd, her voice cutting through the murmurs. Stay here, Lily. Ethan started to push through the group, the protective urge overpowering any lingering fear. Ethan. Be careful. She called after him. Just stay where I can see you. He shouted back, focused on the scene. As he stepped closer, the child's sobs echoed, drowning out all other sounds. He knelt down next to Benny. Hey, buddy, can you tell me what happened? His voice was gentle, hoping to calm the little boy amidst the chaos. I felt my leg hurts. Benny's breaths came in quick bursts. It's okay, you're gonna be alright, Ethan soothed, glancing up to see if any help was on the way. The boy's father looked up, grateful yet overwhelmed. The sirens wailing in the distance grew louder. Relief washed over Ethan, but his nerves remained tightly coiled. Holding Benny's gaze, he promised, help is coming. You're going to be okay. Just keep breathing for me. As the first responders arrived, their professionalism cut through the anxiety. They swiftly assessed the situation, but the gravity of Ethan's own past weighed heavily on him. Memories of moments he couldn't fix his sister, her accident flooded him. He brought his focus back to Benny, determined that this time, he wouldn't let fear take over. Lily came to his side, eyes wide with worry. Ethan, do you think he's going to be alright? I hope so. Even as he spoke, a knot twisted in his stomach. Just then, he caught sight of the familiar face of a friend pushing through the crowd. Alex, a paramedic he had trained with years ago. Their eyes locked, and Ethan felt a strange sense of comfort amidst the uncertainty. As Alex took over with the child, Ethan stepped back, letting the professionals work. Lily slipped her hand into his, grounding him as they both watched with bated breath. Ethan, what if she hesitated, searching his eyes for answers? Whatever it is, together, "We can handle it," he said firmly. But even as he said the words, he felt the shadows beginning to creep back in, buoyed by the fear that life might repeat its patterns. The scene began to calm with the paramedics in control, but an unsettling thought struck Ethan: deeper troubles crept around every corner. Would he be able to keep Lily safe? The way the world had spun just moments ago wasn't lost on him. Their budding relationship could be fragile, just like the boy on the ground. And as they stood, enveloped in the chaos that briefly unified them, a question echoed in his mind: could he really protect the new memories they were trying to build? Just then, the sirens pierced the air, and something deeper than fear began to bubble inside Ethan's chest, a determination ignited by uncertainty. What would this moment mean for them, and how would they rise from this test? Ethan held his breath, feeling the tension in the air shift. The paramedics worked quickly, their voices steady and sure. Alex was kneeling beside Benny, checking for signs of severe injury while giving the boy's father instructions. But despite their urgency, a small voice in Ethan's head wondered if this was it, if this was how it would always be: a battle against fate, against fear. "Stay positive, Ethan," he whispered to himself. "Think about Lily. You have to stay strong." Lily was still at his side, her brown eyes wide with concern, yet somehow glowing with a glimmer of hope. She had witnessed the chaos unfold, yet she stood there, strong, grounding him in her presence. She was grasping his hand so tightly, almost as if she understood the torrent of worries swirling in his mind. "Ethan." Her voice was barely a whisper, a small crack in the noise around them. What if we can't be together?" The way she said it tugged at the corners of his heart. It wasn't just about the moment any longer, it was about the future. "We can be together," he replied, pulling her closer, his determination solidifying. "No matter what happens, I'm right here." As Alex checked Benny's leg, the mood shifted slightly. At last, the little boy's cries began to subside, replaced by shallow breaths. The father had calmed too, wrapped up in the steady reassurance of the paramedics and the hope sparkling defensively in Ethan's heart. But as the chill of possibility lingered around them, Ethan noticed another wave of people approaching. A woman in a pink jacket stepped into view, a neighbor. He recognized her from the block. Her face flipped between concern and confusion. "Is he okay?" she asked, her voice trembling. "What happened?" "Just a fall," the father shouted, trying to keep the edge of panic from his voice. "They're taking care of him." Ethan watched as the crowd shifted, faces filled with understanding, offering words of comfort. In that moment, he felt a sudden urge to pull Lily into a tight embrace, to construct a barrier against the chaos. Her warmth would remind him that there was still safety, still love, even in moments like this, yet part of him remained restless. Would this fleeting moment of connection tighten the bond between him and Lily or tear them apart? What if it pushed them into the heart of a problem they weren't ready to face? The sirens finally faded in the distance as the ambulance doors slammed shut. The father thanked the paramedics, his voice thick with gratitude. Benny would be okay. Ethan felt the heaviness on his chest lift slightly, but then it returned again, pressing down, reminding him that uncertainty was an ever-present companion. He looked at Lily, vulnerability etched on her face. "When we get home, can we talk about everything?" Lily nodded, a hesitant smile breaking through the shadow of worry. "I want to," she said softly, but before he could fully process that moment of relief, a harsh scream pierced the air. It echoed through the park, and both he and Lily turned quickly. Fear jolted through the crowd, faces turning pale, anticipation thickening the silence around them. "What was that?" Lily gasped. Ethan's heart raced again, already bracing for whatever chaos lay ahead. "Stay close," he shouted, pulling her by the hand as they moved toward the commotion. What fresh trouble awaited them now? Would this moment unravel everything they'd just managed to piece back together? Ethan watched the crowd surge toward where the scream had originated. Panic pierced through the air like shards of glass, and he could feel Lily's grip tighten around his hand. Every instinct screamed at him to turn back, to safeguard their moment, but the unknown beckoned ahead, dragging them deeper into the chaos. The park was now a quagmire of emotions: fear, confusion, and the faintest flicker of courage. As he stepped forward, he could see a figure lying on the ground, surrounded by onlookers. The faces of the bystanders were etched with shock, some covering their mouths in disbelief. The world sifted through Ethan like a distant echo. Focus, Ethan, he told himself. He had to be there for Lily. There. A voice called out from the crowd. A woman cried as she clutched her phone, fumbling for the emergency services number. Someone call 911. Ethan's heart raced, its beat drumming louder and louder. He caught a glimpse of a college student, sprawled on the ground, clutching his head, eyes wide and unseeing. An older gentleman had already knelt beside him, attempting to speak soothing words, but he trembled, unsure of what to say. Lily, stay here. Ethan pulled at her arm gently, instinctively wanting to shield her from the turmoil before them. I'll see what is going on. No. Don't leave me. Her voice quivered, the weight of the moment crashing down on her. The fear in her eyes mirrored his own, and he broke inside at the thought of her facing this alone. I won't be far. Just stay put. Reluctantly, he unclasped his hand from hers, forcing himself to stride toward the center of the chaos. The older gentleman looked up as Ethan approached. He's just fainted, I think, he said, his voice thick with worry. But we need to check if he's breathing. Ethan knelt down beside the boy as the crowd churned around them. Hey, buddy, can you hear me? He placed a gentle hand on the young man's shoulder, feeling brittle. A moment passed, suspended in time, and then a few people stepped in closer, but the air felt thick, suffocating with anxiety. As the boy stirred slightly, flickering his eyelids, hope surged through Ethan. Come on, that's it, he coaxed softly, wishing to rock this moment forward. But the boy's eyes rolled back, and his body went limp again. Ethan's breath caught in his throat, seconds stretching like minutes. Do we need to move him? Someone asked nervously, already gripping their phone to call for help. No, Ethan said. Just keep talking to him. Let us be calm. Lily wasn't with him anymore, and suddenly he wished she was. What would they say? How would they handle this fear, this reality that none of them were prepared for? Strangers shared glances, a collective breath held as they waited for the boy to respond. Moments crawled by, statues in a tableau of tension. And then, just when Ethan thought it might all collapse into darkness, the boy blinked open his eyes, gasping for air as he coughed. Relief rushed over the crowd, collective laughter bursting from the tension that had gripped them all. Ethan felt a tremor of emotion wash over him. What had just happened was nothing short of a miracle. Yet in that torrent of relief, darkness still loomed at the edges. Is he okay? Lily's voice broke through as she finally slipped back to his side, determination in her expression. I think so, Ethan replied, glancing over his shoulder to where the boy was now cradled by a pair of paramedics who had finally made their way through the crowd. But it can change in a second, right? The weight of vulnerability surrounded them again. Ethan, are we okay? Lily asked, her voice trembling slightly. He held her gaze, searching for the right words. What if they too faced a sudden unraveling? What if the world shattered around them again? What if we don't make it through these moments? She whispered. She was the storm and anchor, all at once. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. Together, he said firmly, though uncertainty gnawed at him. No matter what, we will face everything together. Yet, as he spoke those words, a distant cry echoed, cutting through the noise like a siren. What other secrets lay waiting in the shadows, waiting to surface? As the crowd began to disperse, and the echoes of the day started to settle, he realized that perhaps they had only scratched the surface of what was yet to come. Ethan's heart raced, pounding against his ribs like a prisoner trying to escape. The adrenaline from the earlier chaos still coursed through him, but now, it mingled with a new kind of unrest. He looked at Lily, the uncertainty in her eyes mirroring his. They stood on the brink, not just of a busy park but of something far more profound, a moment teetering on the edge of unveiling. What was that cry? She asked, fear knitting her brow again. I don't know, he replied, glancing around. But we should. Before he could finish, a loud crash echoed from behind them. A metal cart tipped over, sending layers of sodas flying across the pavement. The scattered drinks hit the ground with a storm of fizz, some landing eerily close to where scenes of earlier frantic energy had unfolded. Laughter erupted from nearby teenagers, a jarring contrast to the emotions they had just experienced. Ethan squeezed Lily's hand, grounding himself. Let us move away from all this, he said, pulling her toward a quieter part of the park. They passed through scattered families and slowly dispersing groups, each huddled in their world, but each marked by the shared experience of a wild moment. The trees began to thin, shadows lengthening over them as they emerged onto a winding path lined with daisies. There was no sign of fear here, just the gentle hum of normalcy. But beneath that surface, Ethan still felt the weight of the unresolved, an urge brewing inside him that demanded answers, an itch he couldn't ignore. Ethan. Lily's voice broke through his thoughts. What if something like that happens again? It won't, he reassured her, but even as he said it, his inner voice whispered doubts. Life had shown its volatility too often for comfort. What if it does? She pressed on, her instinct to protect bleeding through. We can't escape chaos forever. He turned to her, urgency flaring. But we can choose how we respond to it. Together. No matter how scary it gets, we figure it out side by side. She studied his face, searching for the courage he tried to impart. In her eyes, he could see the storm of emotions she battled. The desire to be brave was tangled with the wish to retreat. Just then, their quiet moment shattered again. A woman sprinted past them, a frantic expression plastered across her face. Help. Please. She called over her shoulder as she dashed toward the park's edge. Ethan felt that visceral pull again, the temptation to dive into the chaos, to respond without hesitation. Lily's hand slipped free from his as she instinctively followed him, her resolve now rooted in urgency. Do you think we should? She started, but Ethan didn't wait for her to finish. He was already moving, his feet pounding against the ground, each step fueled by adrenaline and a need to do something. To be part of a solution, not just a bystander. Stay close. He shouted back to her, the thrumming of the crowd engulfing them as they raced to follow. The energy ahead crackled once more, electric with the unknown. As the park opened up ahead, a knot tightened in his stomach. The woman reached a cluster of people gathered at the edge, her cries mixing with others who were horrified as they stared at a scene Ethan couldn't yet see. What is happening? Lily gasped, halting beside him. He couldn't pull his gaze away from the growing swell of bodies, a swirling mass of dread. And then he saw it, a commotion that mirrored their earlier panic but felt 10 times more urgent. The weight of uncertainty pressed down hard. Ethan. Lily's voice trembled beside him. We have to. Was this the chaos that would define them? As they moved closer, the scene before them unfolded, revealing truths they weren't prepared for, truths that would bind them more tightly or threaten to tear them apart at the seams, perhaps forever. What lay ahead in that crowd, hovering on the eve of revelation, was a decision point. Would they embrace the chaos, or draw back into safety once again? Ethan's heart raced, and he realized one thing clearly: whatever happened next would shape them in ways they couldn't even begin to fathom. Ethan pushed his wheels forward, urgency collapsing the anxiety that had plagued him just moments before. His heart raced, not just in fear but with a new determination. He couldn't retreat now. As Lily matched his pace, their eyes locked with unspoken vows. They were here, together, no matter what awaited them. The fray grew closer, the air thick with panic. Curious onlookers stood aghast, their faces painted with shades of shock and fear. As they broke past the crowd, Ethan spotted what had caused the uproar: an elderly woman sprawled on the ground, clutching her chest. The sight sent ripples of dread spiraling down Ethan's spine. Call 911. Someone shouted, their voice cracking through the haze. Ethan's instincts surged. he couldn't allow himself to be paralyzed by panic now. He knew what it felt like to be powerless, and he wouldn't let it happen again. That he turned to Lily, whose face was pale but filled with a flicker of determination. "Stay close, okay?" he said, firm but gentle. She nodded, stepping in line with him, her hand slipping onto his shoulder as though anchoring him in tumult. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" Ethan called gently as they approached the woman on the ground. "Help is on the way." The woman's face was a mask of fear and exhaustion, her breaths shallow and desperate. Every fiber of Ethan's being screamed to help, to act to become what he had once feared becoming, someone who stood helpless. Lily squatted next to him, her hands trembling. "What do we do?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Ethan felt the weight of the moment settle like an anchor, but he remembered what Jake had told him, how accidents don't have to define the person. It was time to act, to step into the chaos instead of outside it. "Let us get her into a comfortable position and check her vitals," he said, a steadiness in his tone that surprised even him. Lily moved effortlessly beside him, supporting her own weight as she knelt close to the woman's head. "Just breathe, ma'am. You're safe," Lily coaxed softly, her voice wrapping around them like a warm embrace. Ethan set a firm grip on the woman's wrist, feeling for a pulse. He picked up rhythms of hurried breath, life still fighting against the unknown. "Lily," he breathed, "stay by her. Talk to her." Lily nodded, fluttering her fingers across the woman's forehead, brushing back damp strands of hair. "You're doing great," she said. "Help is on the way. Just keep breathing." Moments stretched, seconds blending into each other as uncertainty intertwined with hope. It felt like they were suspended in time, with the world spinning outside of them. As they waited, Ethan felt an electric shift in the way they interacted. In that minute, struggling against the weight of fear and anxiety, a bond ignited between them, a shared purpose that felt liberating. It reminded Ethan of the moment he had stood before the community, seeking connection with Lily. Now, they were both doing more than talking, they were living their words. The siren screeched closer, slicing through the shell of tension that had settled over them. Relief began to seep in, but it was tinged with the profound realization of the fragile nature of life. "Ethan, I'm scared," Lily confided softly, her hand still resting on the woman's shoulder. "Me too," he admitted, looking into her eyes. "But this is where we begin to understand the strength we have together. Whatever comes next, we will face it. I promise." The paramedics arrived with a rush, their unwavering confidence flooding the scene with competence that pushed away chaos. They took over seamlessly, assessing the woman and ensuring she received the immediate care she needed. As Ethan stepped back, he felt Lily's hand slip into his, grounding him once more. When the ambulance doors swung open, the rush of activity drew away the tension slowly, revealing the daylight that echoed the possibility of a brighter future. He glanced over at Lily, her eyes glistening, reflecting the warmth of their shared experience. "I'm proud of you. You were amazing," he said softly. "Thanks, but I couldn't have done it." "Without you," she replied, her courage lifting the shadows around them. In that moment, they shared something irreplaceable, a piece of themselves that had transformed from uncertainty into a vibrant tapestry of hope and connection. As the paramedics loaded the woman into the ambulance, they locked eyes one last time. With gratitude flowing unspoken between them, Ethan felt something inside him shift. Lily squeezed his hand, and Ethan felt that flickering flame of possibility ignite in his chest again. This journey hadn't just been about mending old wounds, it was about building new bonds and discovering the strength of their resilience. With the chaos slowly settling into a calm hum of life, Ethan turned towards Lily, feeling as though they had both come through a storm, hand in hand. "What now?" he whispered, a smile dancing on his lips. "Now, we go back to that time capsule," she replied, her sparkle returning. "We have new stories to add, new memories to create." The path ahead was still uncertain, painted with challenges yet to come. But together, as they pushed through the remnants of their past towards the dawn of healing, Ethan believed one thing with every beat of his heart: they would weather any storm forged in their path as long as they faced it together. As they turned away from the bustling scene and rolled into the warmth of a community grateful for their bravery, Ethan couldn't ignore the swelling hope that filled the air. He could see the journey materializing ahead, a future built not just on memories, but on unwavering connection, resilience, and love. Now, as they walked this path, side by side, it felt like a fresh beginning, a new chapter ready to be written. And now, dear friends, this is the time for you to act. You need to subscribe now, right away, to not miss the next incredible stories that wait just around the corner. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support makes all the difference in helping us grow this community. And I want to hear from you, so comment below with your thoughts on the ending. What are your feelings about Ethan and Lily's journey? Lastly, don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who truly need to see this transformation. Show your support and let us spread the power of connection far and wide. Thank you for being part of this journey.